Hey, Mommy, welcome to the Mami Collective podcast. I'm Paulina Roe, and this is your space, the No BS All Vibes podcast for ambitious moms who know that motherhood and big dreams go hand in hand. Whether you're killing it in the boardroom, hustling on your side gig, or just trying to get through the day without reheating your coffee for the third time, and yes, girl, we've all been there, this is the place for you. We're here to flip the script on the whole you can't have it all narrative, because spoiler alert, you can. Motherhood doesn't dim your ambition, it actually fuels it. And we're going to talk all about it, the wins, the struggles, and the moments that make you say, damn, I am really doing this. So buckle up, boo. We're diving into real talk, inspiration, and the occasional hot take to keep you fired up and thriving. This is the Mami Collective. Let's do this. I say we just dive into it. Mami Collective podcast, Paulina is here, and I am so excited to introduce my guest today. I've been following her on the gram for a long time, and I love to really indulge in her content. I find it just so fascinating, but I also find it, now that I'm a mother, I find it even more informative, especially when it comes to like me and my husband, right? And like partnership and just everything that you think of post-kids life. So I'm grateful for Karina F. Daves. You are here today. How are you?
I'm so excited, Paulina. We're going to have a great time. And I really, every conversation we have is always so good. I love connecting, not just even like before your baby, but just like as women. I think that there's something that connects us and binds us all the time. And I love that.
So Karina F. Daves, a relationship expert who teaches individuals and couples how to enjoy more satisfying partnerships by solving their number one relationship issue, no matter what it is. So first things first, Karina, I kind of want you to sort of tell us about yourself, you know, kind of like how did Karina come to be who she is today? Like relationship expert. Like I always joke and say I am one. No, the hell I'm not. I don't even follow my own advice. But I just want to know like kind of how your path led you here.
Yeah. So I'll try my best to take everybody on a very short journey. I was born in Peru, came to the States in the 90s with my family. We migrated here and I spent a significant amount of time in North Jersey, went to college in Jersey, got my master's in New Jersey, and I got married to my husband in 2012 after 4 months of dating. And it was very interesting. We actually did date in high school. We were 13 and then we dated on and off a little bit here and there when I was in college, but nothing really was as big as when we just like decided to get married. And I think that decision was very much led by God. And also, you know, it's interesting. People say, when you know, you know. We've been married for 13 years now, and I started out as a social worker for over a decade. And then I, at the time, was teaching global women's leadership for about 5 years as a professor. And then I transitioned into tech a couple of years ago. But when I was working as a social worker in higher ed, I just started a podcast. And at the time it was called One Day at a Time. And I really felt like what Paulina and I discuss is that, and what really is what her podcast is about, the importance and significance behind women being able to see other women doing the same thing. When you get married or in a relationship, and also when you start building your family and even in your career, there are so many moments where you feel really alone and you feel like either nobody's reached out to me or nobody's ever gone through this, or who can I talk to? Or even Betty, who I talk to, doesn't really understand. She gives bad advice. And so what I felt like One Day at a Time was, its purpose was to really bring on women to say, like, how are you doing it? And I think that we don't ask each other that question enough. Like, how did you just put your baby down? Like, what methods are you using, right? Like, we don't have a lot of those. And in essence, we've utilized the internet or Facebook forums to really figure out how to navigate parenthood, how to navigate marriage, how to navigate all of that. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I think the original podcast was really brought together for that purpose. And then after a year of launching it, it did very well. There was a lot of teaching strategies and expertise in a lot of things that I was sharing. And a business partner at the time was like, you should really have a business with this. Like, this is something that you could definitely coach people through. And I was like, well, I was a social worker. I taught for 5 years. I would love, I mean, isn't it interesting that you can do something that you love and get paid for it? It's very interesting. So then we just launched. So that was about 5 years ago at this point. And the podcast's birthday is actually this month. So it launched in April. Yeah, of 2020.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So that's how we got to where we're at. I mean, and there's so many other intricacies of this, of how I was discovered online, like all of it that we can dive into, but that's the gist of it.
I love it. And I love, like I said, I love your content because I've just found it relatable in almost every chapter of my life, right? So sort of like when I was, just single me running around town but like so focused on my career, but feeling lonely, right? Or feeling like, okay, also what's the next step? Like there's so many layers to it, right? And then now that I'm married, one thing that I'm so big on is like, I never wanted to be that girl who got into a relationship or got married and then you never saw me again, because that's happened to me with friends, right? So I was like, okay. And then now that I'm a mother, I see the same, I don't know if it's like a cycle, but the same mindset of like, I don't want to be forgotten, look at me, don't forget me type thing. And I obviously, mother first is who I am, but I also still want to be like a present friend, a present partner, right, to my husband, a present coworker. Like I still want to keep those parts of me in my identity. So that's kind of something that I'm going through personally, but a lot of moms who listen to this are too.
Yeah. It's so interesting. And we can dive in, I mean, on this topic if we may.
Yeah.
But that feeling of feeling like you're left out is hard. And I can speak to that only because Terrence, my husband, and I were the first people in our friend group to get married.
Okay.
And so we were like 24, 25 when we got married. Nobody was getting married back then at that age. Well, not even back then. This was 13 years ago. But everybody was pretty much either in a long term relationship or just like trying to go for another degree and all this other stuff. And I had the privilege of doing a lot of the things early on that I wanted to do. And so I'll never forget, like, probably a couple months of being married, like my girls went on a girls trip and they didn't invite me. And I remember being like, why didn't anybody invite me? And their response was, because you're married now. Like we didn't think you were allowed to go. I was like,
wow.
What? Yeah. And so there was a lot of assumption.
Loud.
Yeah. And I know, right? And I was like, wait. I would never marry anybody that wouldn't allow me,
Right.
And so,
first things first.
Yeah. And so I remember having that conversation with my girlfriends of like, no, invite me. And then it happened again when I had my first son. And it's so interesting. But I realized that with every stage, so even if like I changed careers, even if I, now when I had my other son, all those moments, I remember having to be sort of the loudspeaker. Like I would get on and send a memo to everybody. Hey, I'm still alive. I would love for like, just so you know,
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. Like you can include me and things of that nature. And I have gotten over the years, and I'll be transparent about this, I have gotten feedback regarding the fact of like, bigger groups, right? Of like bigger events of like, you don't attend them as much and yada, yada, yada. And I've had to say like, yeah, you're right. I actually don't, primarily because I really value sleep right now.
Yes.
And at the same time, like I have to pick and choose, after working 80 hours a week, I kind of just want to sleep in. Like I'm not actually going to a different event. I'm actually just choosing to rest. You can come over if you want.
Totally.
I'm there. You reach a certain point in your life where you really value rest.
100%. Also, too, like what I've noticed is like even before baby or before my husband or whatever, like maybe I was in a different mode. I call it, well, I guess survival mode, if we're being honest, especially in my career. I was a yes man. I'm going to be honest, because I was just starting. And I think a lot of us as women, especially, we feel like we've got to like put in all that extra time, effort, whatever. Right. And I work in media. So like it's entertainment media. Like if there's this happening, that happening, I was always there. So I think it almost became a culture shock when I started saying no. And I think a part of it was, getting into a serious relationship and then obviously having a child. But I also started saying no just for my own mental health, like you said. Like I just wanted to rest, or even if I'm not resting, if I just, I don't know, want to go to Target. Like I honestly, like time has always been limited for me, but now it's even more. And I think I had to let go of that guilt because people also were used to a certain version of me by saying yes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think we struggle with that a lot as moms.
Yeah, no, absolutely. People were used to like the club version of me. And If it's a house party, I'm there.
Girl, yes. I always say that. You will not see me in a club. And honestly, even when I was single, you wouldn't see me at the club. You see me at the local bar or you'll see me at a house party. Period.
Do any house party. I'll even host the house party, okay? Like, I will host the house party. But the fact that you want to host something in the city, okay? I live in South Jersey, in the city, right? And it don't start till like 10 o'clock. That means I got to nap all day.
Yep. Literally.
So I'm there with you. I'm there with you. But if we do a house party, I'm up with you till like 2, 3 a.m. So
me too.
You could choose.
And the vibe too. I don't know about you, and like I love Philly and South Jersey. I love that area, but like the house parties there are good. You know, I'm from Chicago, so like our parties are good. I don't know what it is, but like club versus house party or just like any, you know what I mean? Like something more chill like that. I will have so much more fun at someone's basement. It's the weirdest thing, but I love it. I love it. So I kind of want to dive into as well to chat about like partnerships, right? And like after baby. So whether you're in a serious relationship or you're married or, you know, engaged to be married, I kind of want to talk about what changes, you know, and I've heard from couples, nothing's changed, which I don't know if I believe it. And then I've heard every single thing has changed. So I think there's like a spectrum or whatever you want to call it. And it's just like, it goes from here to here, right? I mean, it can really vary.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to first talk about, before we dive into that, sort of like when you see somebody like with an issue or a couple that wants to work through an issue, if you can be transparent, what's like the number one issue you see post kids?
Post kids reminds me of like COVID, which is that post kids, the theme is exposure. So one thing you need to understand about relationships when it comes to having children is everybody thinks like after the kids, everything changed. And the reality is that what happened is I want you to replace the word change to exposed. Everything really didn't change. I mean, mechanically it did. But relationship-wise, everything was exposed. You get it? Your capacity was exposed. Your quick to anger was exposed. Your how you handle difficult situations was exposed. Your parenting was exposed. Your coping skills were exposed. Your resolving conflict quickly was exposed. Everything in your relationship will be exposed after kids. God forbid somebody, you know, passes away in the family. These are life-changing events. When couples move across country, it's an exposure. Like all of those are exposing seasons that happen in every single relationship, and they should be taken as opportunities to be like, oh dang, like you got a little bit of an anger issue, or like, oh dang, like you actually do need sleep. How do we figure this out? So I'll give you an example. When I had my first son, TJ, I told my husband, I said, you know, I really like to sleep. And I know this very much about myself. I said, Terrence, if I don't sleep, I will be a very bad, mean person. And I don't want to be a bad person and be a bad mom and then be a mean wife. Like, I don't want to be any of those things. And I know myself so much that I think my max is probably like a week or two without sleep, dysregulated sleep. That's all I can handle before you have a different side of me. And he was like, okay. And I said, so what should we do? And he's like, all right, well, should we get support? Should we try certain methods? What do you want to do? And I was like, I kind of feel like we should try to support first. If we don't do the support first, I'm down to read some literature or watch some documentaries about how to do something during this transition that can help out with my sleep. I just know I'm not good when I don't sleep. And I think that, and Shonda Rhimes actually said this in her book, The Year of Yes, that a lot of us tend to wear lack of sleep as a badge of honor when it's one of the biggest silent killers. Like it kills a lot of our hormonal imbalances, our brain function, and all of that, when technically like we actually really need it.
Yeah.
And so we decided in that moment to go first for support. It worked for a little bit. And then, you know, and I know a lot of moms are against sleep training. So I'm not saying that it's the best, but it did work for us. And so that's the route that we took with our kids, and I was able to sleep.
Listen, whatever it is that I need as a mom, like I will vocalize it, I will express it, and I'll make sure that I get it. I think my previous guest, one of my guests on the podcast, Alyssa, she talked about that, and she says, and it was true. It's like you mentioned it as well, but like no one gets like an award for suffering, whatever that looks like, right, for you. And you're like, no, I need my sleep. I'm the same way, because again, the old me was very much like losing a lot of sleep, you know, doing things for other people, spreading myself thin. So like, becoming even like a mom, or just honestly just getting older too. That was like 25-year-old me. I'm 32. It's not a crazy age difference, but I have grown in those years, you know? I do think I'm a different person, but like, yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And like, what about when it comes to spouses, right? If you see your spouse going through it, right? Whatever that might be, like you said, with sleep, maybe they're overwhelmed. I know we suffer from overstimulation a lot as mothers and parents.
Yes, they touch us all the time.
All the damn time.
All the time.
How can we step up as a partner? If I see my husband, you know, struggling with this or whatever it might be, or he sees me, right? Or whoever, how can we step up for our partners?
Yeah, great question. So the first step is you need to check your heart posture. And what I mean by that is usually when we see our partner struggling, we tend to blame ourselves for their issue. And they might as well, right? And so you have to first check your heart posture and put your offense aside. If you actually want to fix the problem in your relationship, the offense has to be put aside, because what a lot of people forget is that when you said I do, you're saying I do to a long game. Marriage is a long game full of repetition. The people that make it millionaires are millionaires because they repeat themselves. Marriages that are healthy and make it, and people don't like to hear this, they repeat themselves. There is a big difference between me saying the same thing and my partner being completely like the type of individual that's disregarding me and being like, F, I'm not helping you, versus me repeating myself and working together to create a habit where my partner's like, oh, my bad, I'll get to that right now. Those are two different partners. Right? But we tend to treat all of them as if our partner doesn't care, is disregarding us, and doesn't give an F about us. But that's not always the case. Some of us just are forgetful, or we haven't prioritized things, and we just need time to create the habit. And that's the thing. When you said I do, you're saying I do to a long game. People think that marriage is like getting microwave results. Like if I tell you today that I have a big issue with you not remembering to throw out the garbage, that you'll just instantly remember by tomorrow. That's not how it works. And then we start getting into, well, then I feel like I'm parenting them. No, you're partnering with them. If you were parenting them, you would throw the garbage out yourself. That's the big difference. It's the big difference.
This is refreshing. This is so refreshing to hear. No, honestly, because like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm the one, it's interesting. You would think that I'm the one who's like, you know, oh, my husband's disregarding me. Like, he actually feels that about me, because I mean, this isn't nice. I shouldn't call myself this, but I'm always like, I process things slower. Okay. Like sometimes I be on some slow shit. Like, cause I just do, like, I'll hear it and then like, I don't process it till like 20 minutes later. I think it's me just being, distracted half the time. It's a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I do think, oh, I know I have ADD, my doctor, whatever. It's a whole thing. So I'm like, I'm working on me, you know, and he's very logical. It's a logical human being. So I'm like I'm emotion. I'm, you know, whatever. I don't know if you believe in like aura colors. I love them so much. I think it's really interesting, but he's a red aura. So that's super logical. And I'm like blue purple. So it's like the creative. It's the, you know, think of just like that, you know, just running through a field all day. Right. And butterflies and rainbows. Like that's like how my brain looks. If my brain isn't like that, it's like the monkey with the, sorry, drop my mic.
Okay.
It's the monkey with the clapping cymbals or whatever. That's how my brain looks. So it's one or the other. Like, honestly, I've got like one or the other happening. But like, he gets frustrated with me, and I'm going to tell him this when he gets home. Like, it's repetition, and he tells me I hate repeating myself, but that's how I process things. And then guess what? One day, I don't know how or why, it clicks, and I never do it again.
Yes. But the beauty of it is, if that day when it clicked due to just your partner repeating themselves and you guys working together, and a mix of empathy and a mix of you apologizing, like that would be beautiful. But in a lot of cases, that click happens with the pressure of they're going to leave me if I don't change, with the pressure of an ultimatum. That when a habit changes because of those reasons, that doesn't last. And also, it creates such a toxic dynamic in the relationship. So back to your question about like, if you have, you see your partner struggling, like how do you have that conversation? Number one, you remove the offense. And number two, you lean in with curiosity. I'll give you a perfect example. My baby sister was diagnosed with blood cancer in January of 2021. She's in remission now.
Okay.
So everything's great.
Okay.
And she moved in with me, and about like maybe a couple months in, and because of COVID, I had my baby in 2019. And then my sister, it was a lot. I had gained a lot of weight. I think I gained close to like 50 pounds. And my husband came up to me. I was sitting at the bottom of the stairs. He comes home from work and he's like, hey. And I was like, oh, here we go. And he's just like, so I'm just wondering, are you okay? And I was like, why? And he's like, well, I mean, are you attracted to me anymore? And I was like, yeah. I'm like, why? And he's like, well, we haven't been as intimate in our normal intimacy, like cadence, as we usually are. And I was just wondering, like, is it me? Like, did I do something? And he's like, I'm just worried about you. You see how he was curious? He wasn't offended. He was just very much like, are you okay? Well, I broke down in that moment and I just started crying and sobbing. And I was like, I just don't like the way I look. I'm so insecure.
This is common, right?
This is so common. Yeah. I was like, I don't like this. And I just feel like, when we're intimate, like I think about every body part and I just hate it. And in that moment, it was interesting because he did two things. One, he reassured me, right? Like he started talking to me about how he's like, the way that I think about your body is that it was once our children's home. And he was like, and for me, that's such a big appreciation. So I could never be disgusted with it. And I was like, wow, I never knew that. And he said, and two, he's like, let's help you. Like, do you want to go back to the gym? And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to go to a normal gym. I was like, I can't do it myself. And he goes, well, there's this thing called Orange Theory. Do you want to go there? And I was like, yes, but it's expensive. And he was like, let's figure it out. And we figured it out. I went to Orange Theory for like a year and a half. I lost most of the weight.
Nice.
But I think that, and then I started, my energy came back, the intimacy came back, everything came back from not playing the blame game, but more so being curious about what was wrong.
I love everything you said, and I want to unpack so much. And I kind of want to get into some of I call them hard-hitting questions.
Yeah,
they're just more of the they're the questions that you're not supposed to really ask, but I know that it comes up in relationships. So that's why I want to just kind of preface with that. But I love, first of all, you have a good man, Savannah. I don't know if you ever saw that TikTok where she goes, you're a good man, or you have a good man, Savannah. Like, he's a good man, Savannah. Like, that is a great man. And I love how he handled that, because that seemed like you needed not only the comfort, but maybe the motivation or the where do I get started, right? Because sometimes we just don't know. Again, there's a lot going on. You had your sister living with you. You just had a baby. There was so much going on. You were still working full time, right? So COVID, it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So that, I love how that situation was handled first and foremost, because a lot of us do tend to fall into the blame game, because I do it all the time. I'm not even going to lie to you. I am not Miss Perfect. I'm still working on me. My husband and I were very good as a couple, but oh boy, do we bump heads a lot. So I love that you're here, because I know this is so common. I kind of want to go back to when you were talking about opening up to your husband about how you felt, right, postpartum, and how you kind of felt with the intimacy. When someone's spouse goes to them and tells themselves, like, let's just flip it and say your husband went to you and pretty much told you he's not attracted to you anymore. Because I know that comes up, which is to me so fucked up on a whole nother level. But that's another conversation for another day. When your clients approach you with that approach, right? When they come to you with that, what's your advice, or what do you even say to that? Because I've heard of this happening, and I know, unfortunately, that the conversation does tend to go like that sometimes for people. Yeah. I know that's not your situation at all, but I've seen it, right? And it makes me very upset and sad. But it happens so much, I hear, even on TikTok, and these wives and people just sharing these stories. It makes me very sad.
Yeah. So it's interesting, because I actually had a couple in a very, actually almost exact situation. So they had been married for, I think, over a decade at this point. She had a child before their relationship, and then they had a child together. And after the second child, during an argument, he straight up told her that he wasn't attracted to her anymore, that she had, in a sense, lost herself and all this other stuff. And, the issue wasn't actually so much so that, but that it actually became a reoccurring thing that he would bring up during an argument. And actually, most of the time, that's actually when it gets brought up. And then there's like heated discussions, right? And so I think I'm answering your question in the right way, which is like, what do you say to the partner that wants to tell their partner that they're not attracted to them anymore, right? Or are you saying, how does the other partner handle it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just kind of want to know, like, should old girl leave him? That's my first question. Like, is that like one of those situations you're like, okay, I'm going to file the divorce papers today? I'm just kidding, obviously. No. But, if you are a man or a woman with, your partner, because it can go from either aspect, right?
Yeah.
And let's just say, like, and I even hate saying it because I don't know, like, if that can even happen. If you love someone, I mean, like, I'm attracted to my husband all the time. However, I know that I've gained a lot of weight since he met me. And he's never once, for example, I'm just using us as an example, he's never once said anything, but I know that I have. I mean, my scale's not lying to me, and I see my pants and how things fit. I had a baby a year ago. I'm trying to get my shit together, if I'm being honest. But it's not the same woman he met 5 years ago. I'm just going to be so for real. I mean, I was like fresh, like BBL. Like, I'm not even being funny. Like, I really was, So it's like, I know he saw like a different girl. I know. So like, I think about that sometimes and I'm like, I wonder if like you miss her, But unfortunately, like you mentioned in arguments or, sometimes like just a shitty partner will straight up tell you that. So like, if my husband told me that, how do I react to that? Like, what should be my healthy reaction if there even is one?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you have every single right to be pissed off because it hurts, right? Yes. It hurts. Like you're being told something that you can't change tomorrow. You can definitely change it, but you can't change it tomorrow. And I think that, there's so many layers to this, right? There's one, which is, yes, I understand that you may not be attracted to me right now, but what do you want to do about it? I always say it's very healthy that when a partner shares with you an issue, and it's interesting because in corporate it's the same way. If my team member brings to me an issue, I also want a potential solution.
Yeah.
Because then what happens is the weight of figuring this out is all on me. And so if a partner were to say to you, like, I don't find you attractive anymore, I would say, listen, first of all, thank you for sharing that because I can feel that it's been a while that you felt that way because it has. Number two, I understand that I don't physically look the same when we met, being that either I had a child, I went through a rigorous issue, like whatever it was. But three, if this isn't something that I can change tomorrow. So, and here's the kicker. Some people don't want to change. So it's like, that's why I always put it back on the other partner of like, okay, so we have two scenarios here. I can either dedicate to changing because I understand that it's the healthy route or whatever, or I can tell you that this is who I am and I'm not looking to change. So now let's talk about how we want to move forward. Is this a game changer for you? Is this something that if it doesn't change, our relationship will just dissipate, right? Like you guys, it's so interesting. Relationships have the potential to have these raw conversations that you and I are having right now, but they don't in fear that they'll just break up tomorrow. And the reality is like you have every power not to break it. Like you don't have to break up tomorrow. You can have these conversations of where the relationship will go for a period of time. That's called figuring it out. So I think that as hurtful as this conversation may be, it's also an opportunity to figure out what do we both want? Because, oh my God, this is so good. Sorry. If I had known that you valued appearance so much, maybe we could have talked about it. And when a partner says, I'm not attracted to you anymore, it's bringing up something that they value. So you and you just said, I'm always attracted to my husband, blah, blah, blah. It means that appearance may not be something that you're like hard valuing. You may value more the way your husband treats you, talks to you, takes care of you than you do his appearance, right? But if he had known that appearance was high on level before he said, I do, or in the beginning, then he could have agreed to commit to it. But nobody has these conversations until you're in the middle of it.
So real. And thank you for your honesty and for like breaking it down because this is a hard conversation, and it's like I felt the need to bring it up because unfortunately, again, I've seen it time after time with people that I know or just even like on TikTok. I mean, I love a good story time, but it does break my heart, because like you said, something could have happened, whether, your spouse could or had, gotten sick or had a baby, gone through something in life. I mean, like shit happens. And that's why I think they say right through better or for worse. That quite literally is why they say that.
Yes.
Hello?
It's in the writing.
Quite literally in the writing. But no, I mean, like, this is so real. So I appreciate that. And I thought that was a great response. And like, yeah, you know, if you're upset, you have every right to be. But I agree with your advice and definitely go from there. And yeah, I guess to have that conversation, you gotta. So now, what about keeping the sexy, right? I always say preserve the sexy. Now, I do want to, like, I'm just really being honest with like my relationship. We don't do like the farting thing. We don't do, I mean, I burp because I'm just whatever, and he burps too. Burping doesn't gross us out. But like, we never set the tone on the farting thing. We just like, never did, right? I know like some people, especially post kids, they'll use the bathroom with the door open, stuff like that, right? So first of all, what is your definition of preserving the sexy? But also like, do we need to do that to even have like a sexy relationship, you know, to keep the sexy going? Or is that like unnecessary?
I think it depends on what you value. So if you value a level of intimacy that is discreet in the farting and the burping and all of those things, then go right ahead. But I think this is a situation where it's to each their own.
Okay.
And also, this is important. When you get married, after you have children and all that, throughout the years, sex will change. And the reason why it will change is because there's all these like moments that basically your world stops, right? And your priorities change. But then also your reasoning for wanting intimacy changes. So in the beginning, it might have just been like, oh my God, I'm so hot for her. I'm so hot for him. Oh, I just whatever. Like it's so good.
Always.
But
it always is.
Yeah, it always is, right? But as you pile on the years of being there for one another, the years of getting through arguments, the years of like, we just had a freaking baby, we're freaking rock stars, or we just bought a house. Like as those moments pile on, intimacy shifts. And it's less about attraction and more about wanting to connect. When you start seeing intimacy as a way to connect with your partner, everything shifts. So yes, am I attracted to my husband? Of course. But I'll never forget, we were arguing about something. This was many, many years ago. This was probably, we're in year 13. So this was maybe like year 4 or year 5. And my husband, we're in the middle of an argument. And he was like, Karina, I just don't think you understand. And I'm like, what? And I think I had gotten home late. And I was like, I'm so tired, honey. And he was like, okay, I just want you to understand that the reason why I want to have sex with you is not because I want to bust a nut. And I was like, isn't that every guy's like thing? And he was like, no. He's like, it may be. He's like, but for me, I see it as like us connecting, us forming. It was like this very like kumbaya response. And I remember just standing there and looking at him and being like, are you serious? And him being like, yes, sex is another form of connection. When I'm with you, when I'm inside of you, it's like our worlds connect. It's like, finally, this is our space and nobody can interrupt it. Nobody can make you feel the way I make you feel, and nobody can make me feel the way you make me feel. I see it much bigger than that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I remember from that point just really starting to study like connection and realizing that like this marriage thing is much bigger than like soulmates and much bigger than paying our mortgage. Like it really is two people deciding to connect with one another, whether you're connecting over a meal and a drink at date night, or you're connecting, you know, in your laundry room having sex. I don't know, but like it's connection. Connection is what we crave, connection and being seen. And when you decide to have sex with one another, you're saying another form of like, I love you and this is my way of connecting.
I love it. I never thought of it that way. I mean, to be honest, like, yeah, my first thought was always like, okay, like you want to bust a nut, I get it, whatever, right? But I really find that fascinating that came from your husband.
Yeah, I know.
That's so special. And I actually kind of love that. Well, that made me like want to tear up a little bit, but like happy to hear that. No, I love it. And what about like when we are, you know, end of the day, we're tired, right? You know, still haven't showered, like, you know, dinner and there's homework, whatever. The day has dayed.
Yeah.
and you have no energy left in you, not a single ounce, but yet, they want, or your partner is, asking, let's, have sex or whatever it is. How do you kind of like do that without hurting their feelings, whether you'll want to do it or not? I know some people are just like, I'll just do it. I'll find the energy. Sometimes that is me because I'm just so tired. But like, how do you prioritize sex? Like, I'm not saying it's just that one day, but like, let's just say, days, weeks pass by and it's always the same thing. Like, how do you make sure that you prioritize sex, or if it's not sex, like that intimacy?
Yeah, such a good question. So here's my take on it. Desire is waiting for you on the other side of taking the action. So what happens with sex is we wait for desire to build up. We wait for energy to build up in order to have sex. What if I told you that what if I told you that desire and that drive is on the other side of taking the action? So plenty of times, and I've been in this situation before where like I don't have the energy. I don't have sometimes even the desire because I don't have the energy. And I'm like, okay, Karina, it's okay. And I go in, I start touching my husband. I feel his soft skin. He doesn't have like an ounce of hair on his body. It's crazy to me. And he's so soft. And it's like after being intimate, I'm like, oh my gosh. The desire starts arising. The connection starts arising. I'm like, wow, desire is waiting for me on the other side of taking that action. It's like sometimes we want, including intimacy, we want things to line up a specific way. It's like, think about how much we've been programmed of what sex should look like, from our teenage movies to what we've seen on wherever we've seen it, right? We think that there has to be this insane amount of like crave and desire and the lights and the R&B music, and like it takes so much energy. It's like a performance. Like we view sex as like such a big performance, when in all actuality, like it's just two bodies connecting and it's not as much energy as you think it is.
Love that answer. Yeah, because once I kind of get to that other side, I'm like really glad we did.
Yes, you know and the mean? Release, and the release does something to your brain. I sleep like a baby after sex. I'm like, you do too. You see, I'm like, this is great. And sometimes, and my husband knows this, and he loves when I use him because he's like, just use me, right? So this happened actually last week where I was super stressed and anxious before work, and he was like, you can use me, and I was like, I'll catch the next train. And we had sex before work. And I was like, this was the best decision ever.
Before work, girl?
Yes.
I mean, listen, I love it. That's a great way to start your shift. I love that. And what about like rekindling as far as like, long-term relationships, right? Intimacy. They say a lot of things, but when I say they, I mean like whatever article I'm reading that week or whatever. But I've read advice where it's like, date your partner, go on date nights. Is that something that like you kind of recommend for, when you talk about intimacy and just like, kind of being with your husband or your long-term partner? Or do you feel like that's outdated advice? This is what you need to do?
Yeah, such a good question. So date nights are a Band-Aid, and they only work if all the other things that are being exposed in your relationship are actually being resolved. How many people, and this has been me, have gone on a date night and you've argued on the way to the date night or at the date night?
Yeah, me too.
Date night is just a Band-Aid if the other things have not been resolved. So I do agree with the advice of like, date your partner. That means be with your partner, check in with your partner. So we have something in our marriage we call check the weather, where like we check in with each other, like, you all right? What's your capacity? Like, I'm good, I'm not good. So for example, yesterday I had finished working probably, crazy. Like I wake up at 4:30 and I was getting home at like 10 o'clock at night, and I was waking up again at 4:30 to go to commute to the city. So my husband had been the primary caretaker, along with, we also have a nanny that's here 3 days a week. And yes, last night was the first night where I saw my kids after like 3 days. I hadn't seen them at nighttime. And in the evening. And so they were all like on me. We were talking, we were catching up and, joking around or whatever. And my husband comes in and he looks at me and he's like, do you mind if I like go take a shower and you put him to bed? And I'm like, I don't mind at all. Am I tired? Of course. But I know that you've had a crazy ass week. And that's a moment of like checking in, him telling me, this is what I have capacity for. I'm good. Can I just go take a shower? Of course. Why would I say no to that? You know what I mean? And so I think that, to your point about date nights, it's just a Band-Aid. I think the real resolution or the real fix is resolving what's in the marriage.
I agree. No,
Yeah.
that's a great point because, like, yeah, I have driven off, pissed off, you know, about to jump out of the car because we're angry about something, like 100%. Or like we're at the restaurant fighting, now no one's talking.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
spending money. We're spending money here to not talk and be pissed. So I think that is so important. I think stop with the band-aids if that's,
Yeah.
you know, what's happening. And I'm talking to myself too, because we've been in there. This is like unpacking so much, but I love it because these are stories that I hear from moms and just women in general often, you know, and I think it's really important to be able to like discuss it. I don't know, you know, people don't want to talk about their marital issues. And I agree to that to an extent. I do, right? Like you don't air out your business, but I think that you and I just having this conversation, I'm hoping helps a lot of moms, women, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wives, you know, that maybe are looking for some kind of clarity, answers. And again, like, I'm no relationship expert, okay? I just like to ask the questions. So really quick too, what about when a mom or like a woman, right, has children with somebody and that man just won't marry her, right? They have a family, life is good, but she wants that, right? Like she wants to be married. And I have a friend, for example, and she said I can talk about her, so it's fine. I'm not going to name her, but she said I can bring it up. But she does want that, you know what I mean? But obviously she doesn't want to do the ultimatum thing. She doesn't want to, you know, pressure anybody. Like that's not the kind of life she wants to lead, right? Where she's like, oh, we're only married because I told him that I'm going to leave if he doesn't. What do you say to women like that, especially when there are children involved, right? They already have a family, and maybe they want to be married or they want something to have that commitment, right? What kind of advice do you give to moms, women, anybody who's looking for that?
So it's so interesting. This is such a good topic. So let me just get this straight. They've been together long term. They've had kids together, but they're not married. She wants to get married. Does he not want to get married?
I think he's just kind of pulling the, you know, we'll get there when we get there card. And I know they've been together for, I don't know if it was that long, maybe like 5-6 years. So like COVID, like COVID time. That's long.
Yeah.
You know, have 2 babies right now. I think 3 and 1. So they're babies. And I know she wants that. And I don't know if there's more to it. And on his end, I don't know if he's not trying to be married or I honestly, I don't know, you know, nice guy, but I'm not married to him or dating him. I don't know that side of him, but I do see this a lot too. Like, again, I love my TikTok story times, but like I've seen this common theme sometimes of the woman like wanting, you know, that family, like the babies have his last name in my friend's example, have his last name. And I think she wants to have that as well. That's what she's told me at least.
Yeah, she wants a family. Absolutely.
And that's fair.
And that's totally fair. The issue is that the value wasn't discussed in the beginning. So even if they had gotten married after the kids, no problem. But did both parties value getting married? Because the reality is, and this is, we're going back to values. You see, do you value attraction? Do you value marriage? These are all like first date conversations. Let me tell you something. When I dated my husband, we talked about all this stuff. I was like, do you value this? Do you value that? I was like, listen, when we have kids, I ain't doing everything. And he was like, no. I have 3 sisters and a mom. And I was like, oh, so you know what to do? He's like, I know everything. He's like, I know that, you know, I'm there to take care of the household and there are no gender roles. Like, it's not just like girls do this and boys do this and yada, yada, yada. He's like, but I am a man and I'm here to protect you. So that's something that I do want to do. It's like, we had very raw conversations about everything. And when we had TJ, my husband went back to work, like literally 4 days or 3 days after we had TJ, and I was home for 3 months. And I'll never forget this because Paulina, you definitely remember this, like sleeping with the baby monitor next to you, and you know, you feel like your baby is not going to wake up. It's a very horrible feeling. Terrible. And so when I wasn't sleeping good, I started just being like, oh my God, I'm so worried. And my husband was like, oh no, this was probably like week 2 or week 3 of the baby. My husband was like, oh no, we're going to switch the monitors. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm going to sleep with it 1 week and then you sleep with it 1 week. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, but you're going back to work. I'm not working. And he's like, yeah, but I want to experience this with you. And I was like, why? I was like, why do you want to experience like potentially not sleeping? And he's like, because like this is my baby too. Like when he's like, you know, when I was inside of you, I knew what we were doing. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I think in that moment I started to understand, like, dang, from all of those dates that we had before we got married, he did make it clear that there were no gender roles. So he valued being there as a father. And so I think for your friend or in anybody in a similar situation, you got to understand that like your partner's only going to do what they value. And if they do a la fuerza and forcefully what you want them to do is not going to last. So if your partner changes because they got an ultimatum, or your partner decides to marry you because you said that you will break up with them if you don't, that ain't going to last. There's going to be another ultimatum, or the reality of it is that they're going to step out in some type of way. And I don't mean stepping out by cheating, which can be that as well, but stepping out emotionally, stepping out mentally, stepping out and stuff. They're going to step out at some point because they know that they have this pressure. And so the reality is, the question isn't, how do I get my partner to marry me? The question is, the answer is, you need to find out if marriage is something that they value. So how you do that. So let's say I'm talking to you, Paulina, and you're the person I want to marry. The way that I would have this conversation is, hey, listen, right now, like obviously we built such a beautiful family, and you know that marriage is something that I really value. Like it's something that I desire. I'm not pushing you to get married. I'm actually curious if what you actually think about marriage. That's where we start.
I mean, that's a great start, but you also have to be prepared for the answer, I guess.
Yes, you have to be prepared, because they're going to be like, what you mean? Be like, no. This is separate from me and you. Obviously, I know you love me, and I know that you're telling me that one day you want to be married, but I'm actually curious what your beliefs are about marriage. What marriages did you watch growing up? What dynamics did you watch, whether you watch it on TV, relationships with your family? Like, what do you think about two people being together for the rest of their lives? That, like, people forget getting to know your partner. That's doing the work. That will give you an insight as to what their beliefs are in marriage. And then you'll have another conversation, because you can't dump it all on one. That can be like, listen, I was thinking, like, based on your values of marriage, or like what your beliefs are, is marriage even in the cards for us? You know, because I get that you possibly had a hard upbringing or things like, you know, thank you for sharing all this other stuff. But like, you know, I know that you want to be with me in the long run, but this is really important to me. So what should we do?
No, I think that's a great way to start that conversation. Be prepared for the answer. And then I guess at the end of that, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess it would be your choice of what you're going to do, right? If you're going to essentially stay in the relationship or not. Yes,
because now your friend has to decide how much she values marriage. Is marriage a game changer for her? So I'll give you one more example. When my husband and I got married, he said, I don't know when it's going to be, but at some point I'm going to be a race car driver. And I was like, the heck?
Okay.
I was like, you want to die tomorrow? I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. So he's like, I can't be with somebody that won't support my dreams. And I was like, of being a race car driver? He was like, yeah. I was like, bro, I thought we were going to talk about like a career move or like a different hobby, but we're talking about race car driving. He's like, yes, it's very important to me. I said, okay, well, what does that mean? He goes, I'm going to build it. I'm going to drive it. I'm going to race it. It's going to be dangerous. And I was like, well, dang, you're going to have really high life insurance then.
I mean, you're not wrong.
You're not about to leave me. And so I think in that moment, like, people that are in these relationships, you got to be as gritty and strong as like Terrence was in that moment. Like, just so you know, I'm not going to be with somebody that won't support this. So it's the same for your friend of like, it's not an ultimatum, it's a value. You go into it with it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Same thing with in-laws. Some people are very much like, I love my family. So like, if you don't accept my family, like, we can't be together. That because I value my family. And if you don't like my family, it means that I have to be away from them because you don't like them. So
that's true.
It's true. So it's a lot of these conversations that couples are not having. They're just focusing on the to-dos, which are getting together, buying the house, having the kids, you know, date nights, vacations, photo shoots. They're like looking at all those things, and they're not looking at the fundamentals, the foundation that's going to keep your marriage strong, keep your relationship strong, are these conversations.
God, I've learned so much from you. And like, now I'm about to go just talk to my husband, because like, we obviously know each other, but like, I'm curious, like, even today, like, what are like your values like in our marriage? I don't know, right? Like, I'm just curious. Like, obviously we are married, but like, I do want to know how he feels about certain things. Obviously, I always want to make sure that, you know, like, his needs and my needs are both met in every single way, and we do a good job with that. But now that I think about it, I don't think we communicate as much as we should when it comes to that. I don't know. And I know we're married for what? I don't even know, a year and a half now? I'm like, I honestly have no idea. A year and a half, but I mean, yeah, I do think about that a lot. And that's awesome. Karina, I do have a question
Yes.
for you as well about more about you and, your motherhood journey. How are you able to balance? So like, obviously, working and coaching with relationships and then having a full-time job in tech, creating content, because that takes a lot of time. I don't care what anybody says. That is a full-time job.
It
Oh my
is.
God. And then obviously being a wife, a present wife, very present, and then a present mother. Like, how are you balancing all of this?
Yeah, such a great question. And so last year, I started doing a lot of day in the life because I got this question so much. And I was like, in my mind, it was normal. And I was like, doesn't everybody do this? Like, why are people asking me, how am I, doing this
Totally.
and doing that? And then I realized, and I'm like, oh, no, there are a lot of certain things within our family dynamic and our marriage dynamic that are the game changers. So number one, we have support, and support in the form of having a nanny. We didn't hire our nanny till last June. So she's been with us for a year, and we hired her when it just got too much. So our kids the youngest is 5. We have a 10-year-old. And then I have 2 lovely stepdaughters. One used to live with us who's 16. And then the other one lives with us. She's 19. And it's a lot. Schedules, driving, pick up, drop off. I'm so sorry, but those stupid freaking days of like hat day, red hat day, yellow day, polka dot day. Like my Amazon card is so dumb. So, but anyways, that's another episode. But it was just very difficult to juggle that. And so a year ago, we decided to invest in a nanny. Also, about, I guess now 3 years ago, my husband did leave his career in the car industry, and he went and worked. He works at Princeton University, which is 10 minutes away from our house. And that gave him the flexibility of having hours from 7 to about 4. So he does a lot of the pickup. So that helps as well. So I'll say 1 is support.
Yes.
I think 2, and I know when I say this, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, I hate that. Having a routine.
Yes.
That everybody can do without you. That is the key. If you develop a routine and you're the only one that knows the routine, everything will shatter because it's all dependent on you. But if you have a routine that everybody can do without you, you're Gucci. And let me give you an example. About a year ago, we decided to really remove a lot of processed snacks from our kids' school snacks and daily. And so we said, we're going to make the commitment to go to the farmer's market and really start getting a lot more fresher produce than just Whole Foods. And it was a financial commitment. And it also was a time commitment because after the fruit's home, you have to wash it. We have to separate it, and separate the ones for breakfast, separate the ones for snack time and all that other stuff. And then we juice every week. We juice ginger shots, we juice celery juice, we juice a lot of things, and everything it has an intention, right? So the reason why we buy pomegranate is to lower our cholesterol, even though I don't have high cholesterol. The reason why we have, celery juice is because it's really great to have in the morning. So there's so much intention built into our routine in order to help us be healthy, happy parents for the most part, as much as we try, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so I would say that the reason why I'm able to navigate a lot of the heavy things is because we have a very good routine, and we have our nanny, who I would just say is just one person, but she supports us as well. She does our laundry. She folds our laundry.
My God.
And
how
we
sweet.
we have somebody that comes in once a month to deep clean the house. I'm
Nice.
trying to think of all the other ways that we have support, but we just have support. And we decided that at some point in the relationship, you're going to have to surrender a lot of the things that you've already been taking on yourself. And I would say that cleaning is the number one start that everybody should start with. Like, if you can just take that off of your to-do list, take it off for real. Landscaping, like all of that, like support will make y'all have more sex, I promise. Support will make y'all have more time together. And then having a routine, it's like developing a routine with your partner is like working on a group project at school. It takes a minute. You're working together, you're trying to figure out like how you would like it, how I would like it. When you are the only person in the house that knows how to do something big that you do constantly, it puts a lot of pressure on you to always be the go-to person. So when my kids come to me about something, they know that they can also ask their dad if I'm busy. when in a lot of dynamics, you can only ask one parent. You got to make it so that the kids hound everybody, not just one person.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Unless they only want to talk to me about it, I get it. But like my son recently had a situation in school with girls. He didn't want to talk to me about it. He wanted to talk to his dad. So like, you got to understand it. So for me, I think, how do I do it all? First of all, I don't do it all at once. And second of all, I think this idea of balance is what's killing us. You got to find the harmony between all of it. And this was something that a good friend, Janice, actually told me a couple of years ago, which is that trying to find the balance is like playing a cat and mouse game. You're constantly trying to figure out, I miss bath time, so how do I make that up? It's all kind of constantly like you're in a deficit. You're always in debt, right? Whereas if you're trying to find harmony between it all, you're just understanding that like, I got to this time, and that's okay, and I didn't get to this, and you know, that's it. I'll stop there.
No, I think that's very true. And I also think that people hate routines, and I'm one of them. But my God, has it been a game changer to the point, and I don't know if you agree with this, I almost, like, my calendar is kind of how I, like, book family stuff. It's work stuff, but now it's become family stuff. Otherwise, I'm like, I need to see it on paper or on calendar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's how I remember to do things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, shit.
Yeah.
You know, I think all of that helps.
Yeah.
Because I was always wondering kind of like how you did it, right? And I hate that phrase, like, how do you do it all? But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, no, but really, how do you do it?
Yeah. No, I mean, I can tell you, I wake up at 4:30. But the only reason why I wake up at 4:30 on Mondays and Fridays is because I work out. I have a trainer. I have a goal to have abs in 2 years. And I just hired her in January. So yeah, so that's my goal for now.
I love it.
I wake up at 4:30. I've been drinking water, lemon, and ginger for almost 10 years as the first thing, because I know that activates my body after fasting. Like, all of these things are intentional, but they're like already ingrained in my brain to do. Then I pray, then I check what I have to do for the day, then I get ready, then either I work out or I get ready and I hop on the train. Oh, before I hop on the train, everything is set up. The carrot juice, the apple juice, the celery juice, everything is like, I do my part. So I put out the kids' coats and book bags and snack bags, and then my husband wakes up at 5:30 and he puts in the snacks in the snack bags, and then the nanny comes at 6. She starts the breakfast. The kids get up at 6:30. I'm already on the train. On the train, I'm creating the content. That's how I do the content, and not really caring what the content looks like. I just care about delivering a good message that will help and serve people. Yeah. And then I edit the content on the, over our train ride. And then I get to the city, I promote in my stories, and then I get to work. And it's like, when you get to work, it like sucks you in. And then I do my job, and then I come out, and then I come home. But there's a lot that goes in there.
Of course. And also, too, I want to just side note, since I've been following you for years, you look amazing. You look healthy.
Thank you.
And I know you said you have another goal that you want to reach, and you will. I have zero doubts about that.
Thank you.
But I'm going to be supporting you on your journey, because I know this shit is hard.
It's so hard. Yes,
it's the hardest thing.
So hard. And that belly fat, I don't know. For me, I have belly fat, and my trainer's like, it's the last thing to go. And I'm like, that's horrible. Yeah, it's the horrible feeling. Horrible. This was so good, Paulina. I'm so happy you had me.
I'm so happy you're here. Karina, if anyone's looking to work with you, I don't know if you're taking, any new clients, but how can my listeners reach out to you to either work with you or, of course, connect with you on social?
Of course. And by connect, we mean just talk, not what we talked about in this episode. I'm just kidding. So yes, I primarily live on Instagram at Karina F as in Frank Daves, as well as on TikTok at Karina F Daves, but just TikTok is a bit spicier, so don't get involved with the comments. And I would say that if you're at a point in your life where you're trying to figure out things like if you should leave or stay, if there's been infidelity involved, or if you're a new mom and you're not sure how to really navigate the relationship at this point, I work with individuals as well as couples. I want you to book a call with me. You can go to the link in my bio or my website, KarinaFDaves.com. Let's talk about everything that's happened so far, what you've tried, and how I can help. I can't wait to meet you. I really can.
I love it. Yes. And honestly, like, even listening back just to this episode, like I said, I hope someone found some form of comfort, maybe some form of answers they're looking for. Yes. But I know that, this does take a lot of work. And I think working with you is something that people definitely should explore if they want to, kind of dig deeper into some of these issues.
Much, Paulina. Thank you for having me.
Of course, Karina, thank you.